Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know, if I'll ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind, I will keep on holding my head high, even if the sky is falling down.
All right, and happy Thursday, everyone. It is Thursday if you're watching this live. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I don't really know what day it is, but happy whatever day that it is. I'm your host, Maria Daniels, and this is Successfully Chaotic. And today I have a special guest, Dana Jonson, with me today. And we are going to be talking about some very important things, our boundaries. I know we've heard a lot about that. It's been kind of a word that's been thrown around a lot in recent years about making sure that you establish your boundaries and whatnot. But it's critical, it's crucial, and actually it is the key to your well-being. I'm going to let my guest jump in and introduce her a little bit about herself, and we're going to get this discussion going.
I feel like that's my number one boundary is I hate talking about myself.
Well, I mean, I can try, but I feel like you're going to do a better job.
That's fine. Well, I feel like the only way to grow is to push boundaries, or at least some of them. So that's what we're here for. So my name is Dana Jonson. I'm the owner of Dana's Desk Virtual Management. I launched my business at the height of all the craziness in 2020.
Oh, wow.
Purely meant it to be a side hustle because I was a single mom at the time of 3 children under the age of like 6 or 7. I can't remember at this point.
It all runs together.
It blurs, but like there was a lot going on, and there was a lot of craziness and uncertainties. So I wanted to make sure I was getting us out of debt faster. I wanted to build a nest egg just in case.
Yeah, you never know, right?
And not rely on other people. I was moving into a new house. Like I had a whole lot of bills that I was trying to navigate and balance. So I also wanted something that allowed me to work from home and be more present and intentional in my kids' lives, because divorce, as many of your listeners probably know, is stressful in itself. But my sister had made a comment, not in a mean way, but a very eye-opening. My oldest son, who was 5 or 6, he essentially lost both parents overnight because I went from being a stay-at-home mom, essentially up his butt all day, like, let's go do stuff, to his dad is now gone and living in a completely different house. And we're in a new town, and I have to work 40 plus hours a week. So that kind of broke me a little bit, and I was very sad. So I was like, all right, we have to fix this. So how can I find something that maybe I don't have to work as many hours during the week, or occupy my weekends, and I can fill it in.
Yeah.
So that led me to opening Dana's Desk. I help with all things operational. I like things to run smoothly. I embrace minimalism in all things possible, including back-end operations. So I come in, I see what you're doing, kind of poke around your business, and then see how we can reduce overwhelm by like combining tasks or automating something, so it's less that you have to manually do and focus on, so you have more time. Honestly, not even time, just have more blank space on your calendar. Because if you look at my calendar at any given point, it looks like a rainbow just exploded.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't want that for my clients.
I do really well for a while, and then it's like this slow decline into insanity again. And the bad part is I know better, right? I know better, but before I know it, I'm like all the way way off the wagon again on my unbusyness, goal. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that kind of fall into that because most entrepreneurs, we have all the ideas all the time.
Yes.
And it's hard because you need to be networking and you need to be, also doing the work. And, for many entrepreneurs, even if you have some people that work with you, which I do, I still don't have technically all the people that I would need to be able to take a lot of those things off of my plate. So I love that you said that because I think number one, it's very needed. And number two, kudos to you for just going ahead and doing that because that's a scary move. I remember when I made that leap and I happen to not be single at the time. I have been divorced. I've been divorced and remarried. My first 4 kids are from my first marriage. My last 3 are from my current marriage. So I've been there.
And did not realize you had 7 children.
I have 7 children. That's usually the first thing people are like, wow, okay. And then I get, are you Catholic? No. Are you Mormon? No. It's a long story on how all that happened, but I wouldn't change having it now, but that was not the goal. I didn't sit and write in my diary as a kid that I wanted to have 7 kids. I thought I was done after the 4 until I got remarried and he wanted more children. So like, here we go again.
So my husband and I have had a conversation about that because he loves babies. And I'm like, I need you to tell me real fast if we're having more kids because me and pregnancy do not get along. So
yeah. Oh no, I get that. I totally get that. It's funny. What my husband didn't tell me, he told me after we got married that he wanted more kids, and he actually wanted 14 kids. This is coming from a man that had no kids, that he wanted 14. I'm like, you're insane. You don't know what you're saying. We'll talk about having one and then we'll go from there. But 14 is off the table. He has this like dream of a big family or something. But it's funny kind of how those things kind of navigate and become kind of part of our journey because again, I never planned. It wasn't anything I planned, but I wouldn't change it now. I never planned on being an entrepreneur really. I mean, I always had kind of my side hustle, in the wellness world. I was a trainer for a while and then, in nutrition, all that kind of stuff. And that was a side hustle for like 20 some years at this point now, but I still had like my normal, like 9 to 5 job that I worked until I couldn't do it anymore. And, it was the same thing. Like it wasn't a plan, but I navigated into it. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they find themselves there, whether, it's a loss of a job or, they're having to take care of a sick loved one. Or like for me, I ended up deciding to do that because my son that's 14, he's autistic. And it just became very hard to navigate his needs with therapies and all these things that was going on and be able to go and work for somebody else that didn't understand because they didn't live that life. They didn't understand that I had, one day he was this kid and then tomorrow he's a whole different kid. That was hard to understand if you've never been there. So for me, again, it wasn't a plan, but that's where a lot of entrepreneurs end up. And so in the middle of doing that, our boundaries are on the back burner. We don't even think about it, right? We're in that everyday survival mode of just trying to make it happen. And that's why I really wanted to have this discussion today, because I think it is so important, because it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or you're working a 9 to 5, or maybe you're just a mom or a dad or whatever. We all need boundaries, right? There's very real reasons for it. But, today specifically, because I know most of our listeners are entrepreneurs, I did want to talk about it from the entrepreneur standpoint, at least heavily. And I wanted to ask you just like, with your own journey, how did you first recognize the importance of boundaries in, your business journey? Because I know, like you said, you were working and then you transitioned into working from home. There's a lot of boundaries that's got to happen. And I know with my journey, it's just now, and I've been doing this for a while now. It's just now kind of getting to where even like my loved ones around me, not necessarily like my husband and stuff, but like, I'm not going to name them, just people in my family outside of my house that still to this day don't completely get that it is a real job, because they've actually quoted, well, so-and-so has a real job and so they can't blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I have a real job. This is a real job. I work a lot, so, and I think that there's this idea that, it's not for some people. And I've heard lots of entrepreneurs say that. So again, there's boundaries in that way to say, well, no, I can't, just stop in the middle of my workday because yes, I'm working from home or from, still an office or a building that I own or whatever it is. I can't stop my day and go do this because I'm still at work. Other people understanding your need to kind of step outside and start a new business, or kind of what was that journey for you?
Well, so I will call my dad out. He flat out says, he's like, I don't understand what you do. So I fine-tuned my elevator pitch and how I explained it basically based off of him. As entrepreneurs, we all know we wear multiple hats. We face a lot of challenges. You, with 7 children, is a challenge enough, but then when you add autism or anything else, extracurricular activities, there we go. Like anything, I mean, those are challenges to go over. And that was really where it was coming from for myself. Mine was more internal. I needed to set boundaries and make myself follow them for myself because I will work all day. I will sit in this corner part of my desk and not move, not get water. I'll only get up if like I have to pee or it's
Yeah.
time to go get my kids. And even then, I'm rushing out the door because I'm like, oh, I could fit one more task in. I could do this
Yeah.
one more small thing. And so I had to set boundaries for just to keep myself in check, almost like gentle parenting myself. Like things take longer to do than you think. And I don't want to work all night. I want to sleep.
Yeah.
I would like to actually watch video game, like play video games or play D&D and binge watch a TV show. But honestly, and read. Like I miss reading, and I don't get to do that as often as I would because by the time I open my book, I make it 2 pages and I'm out. Like
Yeah. Oh no,
it is what it
I feel that. I feel that in my soul.
is. So I wanted to protect my time and my energy, and like minimize the amount of demands where my time and energy needed to go. So I learned to like batch things,
Yeah.
and not do the back and forth. Well, when do you have time available? No, here's my scheduling link of when I'm available that I've already predetermined for this quarter. I usually do it on a quarterly basis or maybe seasonally. Like when school starts back, I have a little bit more time, but it is strictly between the hours of 8:45 by the time, because that's when I get home, and like 1:30 typically, because by 2 I need to go get my kids and everything else in between. So I take a lot of that into account, just mainly to protect those things. I have anxiety. We have determined that I have overwhelming anxiety. And so that was another thing that I really wanted to reduce stress. Constantly working and burning the candle at both ends, especially when I was working a full-time job and trying to grow this business. Like I was losing clients as fast as I was gaining them because I was just tired and missing stuff and so stressed that I couldn't really move forward, which is embarrassing to say as an entrepreneur because I'm supposed to be this leader.
Entrepreneurs have all been
Woo.
there. I'm telling you, I talked to a lot of them. We've all had our moments that we're like, oh man, I'm not doing that well. I need to, and this is why, and those are kind of those things that help us step up to that next level. And I'm glad that you share that. I'm glad that you're being authentic. That's honestly what this show is all about, because there's plenty of shows out there that are like, well, I did this and I did this great and I did this and it was so amazing. And that's fine, whatever, high five. But I want to hear more of that kind of stuff, because I think if we're all honest with ourselves, we've all had those moments, and some maybe, quote unquote, worse than others, but we've all had those moments. I fake quit my business like so many times. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've ugly cried to my husband, I am done. I don't want to do this anymore. And then by the next morning I sleep and I'm completely fine again. I'm completely fine again. And, when I kind of like look back at it, I've got myself into that over busy state every single time. And I don't even realize I'm there. Like, it's not like I see the gradual progression. It just all of a sudden, boom, it's there. And I'm like, crap. And you said something a minute ago. You said things take longer than you think they do. That's me. You just like told my entire life story, because it'll fit in my little calendar, right? It'll fit so good in there.
Yes. Well,
so great.
I think we have, and not to blame social media in a sense, but like we're so used to seeing like these powerhouse entrepreneurs. Well, I only work 20-hour work weeks. Well, you also have someone or someone's multiple on the back end of your business that you can do that. But if you're just starting your journey and you are, or a side hustler ready to take that leap, but you're not quite there yet, You don't have a team. You are a one man, one woman show spinning plates like at the circus and hoping something doesn't fall down.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
So I laugh because I do the same thing. A couple months ago, I just cried. I was like, I'm gonna get a real job. I was like, I'm done. I just want to clock in it out and be done with it. But I know I'm too stubborn and like too dedicated. I put all this time and effort. Like it's gonna have to be successful at this point. It's fine.
No, I get it.
Some of the tips that I kind of like worked with myself, like I said earlier, was kind of batching. Yeah. I batch days. So and it's on my calendar. If you ever want to see it, schedule a call with me and I'll happily show it off. Like Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are lead follow-ups. I don't look any other day.
No, I get that. I do the same things. Not the same days, but
Friday I also have like continuing education. Like I let that be the day where I almost rabbit hole into whatever has fit my fancy or like has pulled my attention. I will give myself like a dedicated however long, up to an hour usually, of having the hundreds of tabs open and learning about it and diving into it. And if it's something that I really feel like, oh, I need to implement this, then I'll create a task in my project management tool. If not, it goes on this living Google document where I will come back to it later.
So
maybe never.
We have a similar system on that. We do. I call it my brain dump. I actually have a physical version too, right here, that I always have with me. I always have a brain dump journal with me. Ooh. I have it in my purse. I have it by my bed. I have it by my desk because I am very ADHD, which a lot of entrepreneurs are, let's be honest.
Yes.
And so I have all these ideas, and I used to, like you just said, rabbit trail down that. But now I dump it in my brain dump journal, and I will, look at that at a scheduled time. And batching has been huge for me. I would say when I make sure and keep up with it. I do 95% of the time, but there are some times that I'm really good at negotiating with myself that I can do it later.
I also put in a few tweaks to my calendar. So someone recommended, she's an ADHD entrepreneur coach. She says, put in your calendar the travel time, not just when you need to be there, but like that, like extend it to when you need to leave the house at the very last minute, you have to go. So that's been helpful. And taking breaks. I put in break time. So my watch tells me if I've sat too long, and it'll buzz at me and say, and stand up.
Yes.
I know to get
that it's time to get up. Yeah. Well, and I think those are little tricks that you figure out that actually works. That I do the same thing as far as I do schedule in my breaks, because if not, I'm one way or another. Like you mentioned earlier, you will sit there and just work and work and work. When I'm in the zone, I will stay in the zone. It'll like turn dark and I'm just like still here. And the same thing, like I haven't ate, I haven't drank. I don't even know what's happening, what time it is. It's just like I zone out because I get in that zone. But then there's other times I'm having to like block myself like 30 minutes. All right, you're going to sit and do this for 30 minutes. You can do this for 30 minutes. I promise, So it's like there's no even medium for me.
I understand that. So that's where I would say prioritize tasks would be it would be good. I do that. I have, like I said, a project management tool, and it tracks all my daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly tasks for each client. But within that, I will write on a piece of paper like my top 3. So if there's 3 clients that have like a deadline that's looming, I'll write them down and the things I need to do within it. Just because physically writing it down just makes it that much more serious to me. I don't know why that is.
Same thing. I do the same thing. That's
my journal is over here. I'm leaving it open because
I think we're twinning. We're twinning at this moment. I am feeling the twinning vibes. I've had to learn these things honestly the hard way. That's how I have to learn everything though, because you could have told me like to do these things, but before I felt the sting of not doing these things, I wouldn't have never done it. I would have been like, okay, cool, that's a great idea, and then not ever done it. I've had to feel the sting of not doing it, and so like I try to implement these things, and I even have. I don't know if you guys. I'm trying to think what camera this is on. Right there.
Ooh.
So I've kind of got to the point of doing that now. And for people that are listening on the podcast, I just showed my little post-it wall. That's where I have it like color coded. That way I can look up there and I know if I have, we'll say 20 minutes and I'm in kind of that flow zone, I have a certain color that are things that I can pull from and go ahead and work on that task. That's helped me a lot. Like it helped me a lot. And, I think that's another thing with boundaries is you not only have to have boundaries with other people, you have to have boundaries with yourself because we know ourselves better than anybody else. And I said earlier that I'm really good at negotiating with myself. We're all really good at negotiating with ourselves. Nobody can negotiate with us better than us. And so if we don't want to do something, we're going to give ourselves 1,000 excuses to not do it. And so I've had to kind of know my own negotiations and kind of combat that with something that was easier to kind of pull from. And I love the top three. That's something that I found useful as well. And I think people that are listening kind of give a little bit about how you do that. That way they can kind of, if they're not really sure about the top three priorities and how you pick those, maybe that will help them a little bit.
I pick mine. So I communicate with my clients almost daily on Slack, and I'm in their inbox anyway. So I see their conversations.
Yeah.
So I, on the back end, see what's kind of causing them stress. And so that's how I base my priorities. So currently at the time of this episode, I have a client who's in the middle of a rebrand and it is causing him stress, but I wasn't in his inbox. He made me my own, but at the end of last month, he added me into his. So now I have like a bird's eye view of really what's causing him overwhelm and stress. And this part of the rebrand is a whole new website, adding new galleries. There's a lot going into it. And I could tell that was like exhausting him. So that is my priority this week, is getting all of the galleries. And he's a wedding photographer. So anytime you put a picture or a photo on your website, it needs to have a metadata description, title, tag, SEO, all those things. All of those things. So there's like 4 galleries that still need to be done. And I'm like, he hasn't asked me to, but I'm hyper driving, getting those all done with the correct metadata tags, adding them to the website, and then creating the individual galleries, but then updating his portfolio page, all of the nuances that go in that. And then and that's taking time. I have worked longer than my normal business hours, but I can tell it's bothering him. So I want to make sure it gets done in a timely manner. And I can only do so much while my children are awake and here from school. So once they go to bed, I get back to it. I have 2 more to go, and it should be ready by tomorrow for final review. And hopefully he can go into the weekend where he has a new wedding or an event, and that stress won't be on his shoulders while he's trying to, connect with a couple and like can really focus on that.
That's awesome. So basically you're like a fairy godmother. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm like, I need a fairy godmother. Like, that's what I need. I need a fairy godmother. That's
so
amazing.
My sister has joked with me. She was like, your posts sound more life coachy than admin. I was like, I'm literally all up in their life.
Yeah.
Because most entrepreneurs, if you're in their inbox, it's not all not all professional stuff. You have so many like couples counseling and layers of stuff. There's a folder in your inbox that's personal. And I'm gonna see it, and like I can see what's bothering you. And I am a nurturer. I cannot remember my Enneagram, but it's a nurturing one where like I want to just mother you. Mother all the things. And so when I know it's important to you, once you are my client, your stresses, your overwhelm becomes my stress and my overwhelm. So that's how I base my priorities. If everything's good, you're in a low season and we're just kind of doing maintenance, I'm still going to treat it important. Like it's important to me, but the priority is going to be someone who still has like 10 events or is in the middle of a launch or in the middle of a big rebrand overhaul. they're going to need a lot more time and attention, and like not day by day updates, but minute by minute updates. So I'll use one of my VAs to help those that are in a lower season so that the others get my time and attention and focus to get those moving and like calm their fears.
No, I think that's awesome. And I think that's, a good place to even talk about, because I'm the same way. I'm a nurturer. If I'm involved with your business or involved with you, I am like all in. There's pros and cons to that, which I'm sure you know, but I'm all in and I'm invested in it. But that's again where I think as entrepreneurs, we have to make sure that we're really good at protecting our own boundaries and our own energies on stuff, because it's really easy to give more than you can afford to give. And I've done it many, many, many times, given way more than I can afford to give. And because I want to fix it, I want to nurture you, I want to do all those things. And I think a lot of people are like that. A lot of women that I know are like that. And I always end up getting an email from a guy saying, well, I am too. And I'm not saying that guys aren't, just many women that I work with and are around are nurturers, right? And we want to take care of everybody, but we have to make sure that we are having those boundaries to take care of ourselves, because like I mentioned earlier, it is the key to our well-being and being able to figure out that balance. Have you been able to, figure out just for yourself, the balance of having, your own personal boundaries to protect your own energy, and being able to kind of balance the boundaries of the things that are needing to be done, in your personal life and your business?
My balance for like prioritizing, I would say I can't have more than 3 clients that I focus on at a time.
Yeah.
Or I just don't know what to do with myself. I also don't do well with back-to-back meetings. So I can't do, like, today and tomorrow are unfortunately heavy meeting days, but it's the beginning of the month and sometimes that happens. But let me actually look at my calendar and I can tell you bird's eye. So tomorrow, I recorded a podcast this morning. I had a coffee morning meetup right before that, so I had to rush home to prep for the podcast, which I did say to protect my time and energy. I said no to my camera being on. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm just not in a mental headspace. And I probably look like a crazy-eyed woman. So we're just going to leave the camera off and I'm going to be able to interact with you a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
And then right after the podcast, because it went over a little bit, because they usually do, I jumped immediately onto a call with a client for our weekly sync. Then I had to rush to go get my daughter. I got home and tried to do a little bit of work and stuff food in my mouth. And then now we're doing this. So after this, I'm very done for the day.
Well, and you're going to have days like that. And I think that that's another thing that I kind of want to bring up, because I think there's this idea not only in the entrepreneur world, but just, you mentioned social media earlier, in the social media world heavily, that, once you start having boundaries and recognize your boundaries, that there's not ever going to be a moment where you lose them for a second or lose them for, a day or, whatever, to some level, because life happens. Right.
Yeah.
And, I think that's the biggest thing. And that's also why my show is called Successfully Chaotic, because life is chaos. I don't care how great your life is. I like my life. I mean, some days, like I said, it's a dumpster fire and some days are great, but all in all, I would do this again. And, I think that's the thing, that you're going to have days where everything goes amazingly. And you're like, you know what? I am checking these boxes. I have got this. And the next day is going to be a flaming dumpster fire. And you're going to be like, what the heck just happened today? And I don't know if I can do this anymore, and I think that's the reality of it, that being able to establish, your boundaries and being able to establish, your priorities and all of these things that we do, you need to do it. It's very important. But it doesn't mean that every single day that it's going to work out the way that you plan, because you're going to have days where lots of things happen that were way outside of your control, way outside of your view of potential of happening. And honestly, this sounds, I don't know, I guess kind of bad, but I've always got to the point lately of just planning for the chaos. Like, you know what? There is going to be something that goes on today. guaranteed, that is going to try to derail me, because I've got a lot of moving parts with all the kids and then my husband and then businesses and, everything, like you mentioned earlier, every plate you add in is another potential for mega chaos. And so now I expect it. So I'm not shocked. I'm just like, oh, well, this, I guess this is what was chosen for today. All right. So here's what we need to do. And honestly, looking at it like that has caused way less anxiety, because before I would plan for this like wonderful day with my planner and my stickers and, my calendar and everything's great. And then life would happen and I'd freak out looking at my calendar like, this wasn't scheduled, and it would derail my whole day, my whole entire day. So I think that's an important thing to kind of talk about too, because boundaries are important. You need to have them. You need to know them. They are definitely the key to the well-being, but you're going to have days where they don't work.
I think that's where being adaptable or, more adaptable, because I use my calendar as a foundation. Yeah. This is what, like, everything's going great, but my background's in wedding planning. And if any of your listeners has done anything in the event space, nothing, literally nothing goes 100% according to plan. No matter how much planning and collaboration you do, these events will still turn out wonderful, but the transportation might get stuck in traffic, or catering forgot some utensils. Like, it could be very minor things that no one else cares about, but it still didn't go according to plan. So I think with like accepting the chaos, and because it's just life is chaotic. No matter what you do, how minimalist you are, there's going to be some chaos. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's life, messy. Yeah. Kids alone are messy. My house is a mess. It's fine. So one of the things I've learned to do when my calendar does start to get like piled up is I had to give myself permission to say no.
Yes. Yes.
That could be no to work requests. I've turned down. Someone wanted me to, they kept sending me work, but they didn't align with my type of client. And I was like, I may need the money, but I'm going to say no, because that's going to be more work on me to learn all these systems, to navigate their something. Like, they didn't email. And I was like, I'm not working with anybody that can't email me. I'm not being on the phone all day. I'm sorry. Or say no to social engagements. Going to networking events are wonderful ways to grow your business. But if you're going to like 10 a week and you find yourself by the weekend just so drained, you don't even want to go grocery shopping, maybe space those out a little. Yeah. Just a thought. And then delegate. Maybe is there someone that could go on your behalf a couple of times? Like, some networking groups let you have a sub, so your business is still getting represented, but a close friend is going for you. Or there's some admin tasks that you put off for the rest, like the whole month, almost like doing your taxes. Well, there's always those people that wait till the end of the month, like the end of the deadline almost, and then they're rushing. Delegate that to a bookkeeper. Then you don't have to worry about it. And it's a tax write-off. We all love those. Yeah. So those are my two like practical strategies. And then it doesn't have to be monetary. It could be a barter system. When I first started and I needed social media graphics, but I'm bad at it, I bartered like 5 hours with a graphic designer, which is nothing during the day. I just managed her inbox and did some social media like outreach. And she took care of my graphics for the whole month, and it was wonderful. Yeah. And that gave me the space to grow, figure out what I, like, don't like. Now we have a better partnership, and I'm working on a few projects where I'm going to pay her now.
Yeah. So, no, I love that. And I think people have got away from bartering a lot. I'm still a fan of bartering. Now, I live in a rural community. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and it's still popular out here. But, all in all, in the business world, like, you don't see it a whole lot anymore. And I don't really know why, honestly. I think there's lots of ways to be able to barter, especially for small businesses that are starting out, or entrepreneurs that are starting out, to be able to get what they, need to have happen, and be able to, not have to spend budget that they don't have to, allocate toward that at this moment. And I
Mhm.
love that you brought up bookkeeping, because that was one of the first things that I subbed out with my business, because, well, I can tell you from my own experience, I tried to keep my books, and I'm using quotation marks, like finger quotation marks, but tried to keep my books the first year, and it was awful. And I had to pay the accountant to go backwards forensically and do it correctly, which is much more expensive, let me tell you. So it's cheaper to go ahead and do it on the front end if you've got a lot of different dollars and stuff coming in. I know some businesses that do it themselves, but there's a simple and straightforward, and mine is not. It's complicated. So, that's one of the first things that I did sub out, because unless you're a bookkeeper, then it's not easy to do that. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that. I think that for me was a boundary. Like, I'm not good at bookkeeping. That was expensive. That was stressful. This is one of the things that I'm going to, budget out to be able to do, and that's protecting my own energy, protecting my boundaries, protecting my business. And I tell my accountant, keeping me out of prison. That's their goal in life, is just to keep everything legal, keep me out of prison. I wouldn't enjoy it there. So that's the whole goal.
I'll say hiring a bookkeeper was also the first thing I did. Because that was the only, honestly, with full transparency, it's the only way I was able to get the confidence to feel like I can do this, because I had a bookkeeper saying, you are bringing in enough money I mean, I'm a broke CEO still, but I can actually pay myself. I got the
Yep.
validation from my bookkeeper that I'm bringing in enough revenue in my business to pay myself to replace most of the money I was making at my full-time job.
That's great. Yeah. And I love that idea, using the bookkeeper to get that validation, because I do think that is a big thing for people who are still working a 9 to 5, have the business as the side hustle for now, wanting to step into it full time, but aren't sure when that moment is. Now, I didn't do that. I just randomly quit my job like I do everything, and then ugly cried all the way home, not sure what I was going to do. That's how I do everything in life. So
I can't do that. My boundary.
so,
I'm not one of those commission people. I
yeah,
need to
yeah,
know at the end of the day, me and my people. I mean, we might be eating ramen for a whole month, but we're covered.
yeah.
And I was like, what happens? And I kid you not, literally the week I put in my 2-week notice, which my husband now actually helped me write. He was like, I already got it ready for you.
Yeah,
He's
that's
been
funny.
trying for months. The day, within 3 or 4 days of putting in that offer, I lost 2 clients. And I was like, oh my, all the words I probably shouldn't be saying on social media were coming out of my mouth. I was in panic mode, because it's like, of course this is happening. But I knew the process because I've done it before. My friend, we pulled cards for the transition of the moons and things.
Oh,
And I just kept moving. And I mean, I have clients now, so obviously it worked, but man, that was scary.
well, and I think you're going to have those moments though. But honestly, like, I'm a big believer kind of in, when you lose people like that, it's for a purpose, because you're accepting people that are actually meant to be there. I'm a big believer in that kind of stuff. Or maybe you were just meant to learn something during that, to get you out of your comfort zone, to go out to be able to get the clients you needed. But all in all, like, I think that those things are definitely things that happen to, all entrepreneurs. Small business is like feast and famine. I say that all the time. If you own a small business, it's feast and famine. So during the feast, don't eat it all, right? Don't eat it all. You still put yourself on a budget on things and prepare for the famine times, because it is going to come. I don't care what
Mhm.
business industry that you are in. I can tell you some are worse than others as far as like how volatile they are. I've worked with lots of different industries, and I can promise you they are all like that on some level or another. So you have to kind of pre-plan for that, of that ebb and flow. We've got lots of
Yeah.
stuff right now. And then, you hit a certain point, it's like, okay, it's crickets and there's no one. And I think that was a big thing for me when I first started my own business, was figuring that out, that, like, okay, well, this is just how this industry is, that this industry is very much a feast and famine type of thing. Like a lot of them are. But I congratulate you on keeping going through it all. Because
Right.
I mean, and I think that's why a lot of businesses, small businesses fail early on, is because people hit that first speed bump and they're like, oh no, this is not going to work, but it's not true. It doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means that this is part of it. It's just not the parts that most people talk about, right? It's just
Yep.
people talk about that, oh, I did this and I did that, which is great, that those are things to celebrate. But it's also important to talk about those speed bumps that are going to happen. And that's when you decide, okay, like this is still something I want to do, knowing that it's going to get better.
Yep. Being ready to pivot, because it always happens.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where the prioritizing tasks. So kind of almost circling back, and I apologize, but so a lot of these were focused on like your client work, but honestly, you need to treat your business like it's your client. So in those 3 daily tasks, like priorities, at least one of them is something to do specifically with Dana's desk. At some point every day, I need to do at least one thing to improve my business or maintain my business, something. So that I would just, for anyone that's listening, I think that's important. Break larger tasks into smaller ones, especially if it's a major task. That way, at the end of the day, at the end of the week, when you're like, oh my gosh, what did I even get done? Even if it's something as simple as you created your email newsletter or something, you can check off something successful. It's ready to go. You're connecting with your audience. You're building visibility. It may not work right now, but there's organic growth happening.
No, I love that. I think those are great tips and great tools. And I feel like I could just keep chatting because, like I said, we've been twinning. I'm like, she's my girl. I'm like, yes, I do that too. But I do want to be conscientious of your time, and I want you to kind of let everybody know where they can find you and where they kind of connect with you. And then we'll kind of wrap the show up at it. I appreciate you coming on here today. This has been a great conversation, and I think I like it when I'm able to talk with people who are super real and authentic about their journey, even with the parts that are, like you said, well, that's kind of embarrassing. Look, but it's not, because we all go through those things, and I think it's great that you are so real and upfront about your journey.
I wish more people were, because it would have made me feel so much better.
Yep, same here.
So that's my promise, to like, whenever I'm connecting with people, whether it's through email, social media, whatever, I let them know, like, I'm not going to give you a sales pitch. I want you to work with me because we vibe very well.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I'm an online business manager for Wedding Pros. I'm also growing into Pinterest management. I'm a big nerd about growing organically. So anyone that would love to chat, my website is ddvirtualmanagement.com. I also have a free Facebook community where I kind of coach as well. It's the Dream Chasers Collective. And I can share links with those.
We'll make one of the things is that you can go back into this on our Facebook, or even send it to me, and I can put it in here if you want to do it for the live show. But if you're listening to this on the podcast, you'll be able to go down in the show notes and you'll see the links in there. So we'll make sure it's in the podcast.
Perfect. And that's pretty much it. Well, no matter where you're in your journey, if you need to even vent, I have a scheduling link for that, and we'll just laugh, cry, and sip some coffee.
I think it's hysterical. I was talking to a girlfriend the other day, and we actually said we should start scheduling times to just get on and just like vent and cry, like scheduled cry times.
I don't disagree with that whatsoever.
Yeah, because I try to stay pretty optimistic and positive on things, but after a while you feel like it's like crushing you, right? And you're like, it has to come out, right? And so
this is a crushing week. I cannot wait to chat. Honestly, my bookkeeper is the person I go to for that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And we are having a session soon.
Well, there you go. It's great to have those people. And if not, reach out to us and maybe we'll schedule a cry session. I don't know,
I will 100%.
All right. Well, if you are listening to this on our podcast platforms, if you don't subscribe already, if you would please hit that subscribe button. It really helps our podcast grow. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you found this helpful, make sure you share it with a friend. Until next time.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights.